Hello, and welcome to Powering the Future. In this episode, we focus on a key driver of Namibia's development, namely electrification. Energy access is about more than infrastructure. It connects people to opportunity, powers businesses, and builds confidence for investment. We are proud of the progress we have made so far, but even more focused on what lies ahead. Join us as we unpack how electrification is shaping industries, uplifting communities, and positioning Namibia for sustainable development. Today, for this episode, I'm joined by two industry experts, namely Mr. David Jarret, a consultant on energy matters of note, and Mr. Fritz, the Chief Operating Officer of Nampower, our national utility. We are talking about electricity as an enabler of development, as an enabler of economic growth, as an enabler of industrialization. David, you are an old hand at this. How do you think Namibia can be better positioned in terms of expanding access, in terms of broadening generation and transmission infrastructure, and generally putting in place that we need in terms of electrification for our country?
Thank you very much for the question and the opportunity to be part of the discussion as we look to develop our country further and move towards increased access to electricity. The whole industry itself is one that has seen growth, and of course we need to take the lessons learned from that growth and help use that to help guide how we move forward. Of course, one of the things that we definitely need to understand is what will be some of our future demands on our industry in terms of, do we look for more commercial activities, or are we trying to improve the livelihoods of individuals generally across the spheres? And so it is that understanding that we are working on, of course, within the various spheres, and of course the society itself also in terms of understanding and awareness. And I'm very happy that we're having this sort of conversation. It allows us to remove some of the misconceptions and so on that will help us reach the goals that we have set.
Thank you very much. We'll pick up on that topic a little later, but let me bring in Fritz here. Fritz, from the vantage point of the national utility, Nampower has been the anchor of electricity generation in this country. It continues to be so. What are some of the considerations that the utility is currently making? Again, looking at providing access and also providing sufficient power to power the industries that will create jobs for the country.
Yes, thank you. I think once more again, it's good that we are having this discussion, because many a times we look for opportunities to inform the country in terms of what we are doing and how far we have progressed and what our capability is locally. When it comes to, let me just give a bit of a background of what Nampower has been doing, to say, because sometimes there's a misconception of where we are in the value chain of electricity.
Right.
Nampower, we are the national utility. Our mandate is generation, transmission, and energy trading.
Right.
Along with that, we have got the modified single buyer framework, for which we are also doing the market operations and system operations as for the country on behalf of the ECB.
A lot has been said about the modified single power model. Can you unpack that a little bit for the layman?
Well, what we had before was that we are having Nampower as a single buyer for all power, a single generator for all generation, and that we have modified in simple terms. I'm just using very simple terms for that everybody can follow who's listening out there. And with that, we have made sure that there is an introduction of independent power producers. And all of those independent power producers have got a certain allowance in the phase as the market is being opened up. Currently, we have got 30% of annual energy. Sometimes in the market, when people hear 30%, they just want to hear about 30% of the capacity, but it's not, it's 30% of annual energy. And that has now introduced independent private players into the generation space. These players are serving what we call contestable customers, and they are regarded also as eligible sellers. And for that, the market has started to open up.
How many of these independent power producers are out there, more or less?
Well, we have, for us as Nampower, we have got about 15. We started with 14 and so on, but there are still a few others. But out there in the market, there are many others who are on the MSB's list.
David, we are talking about independent power producers, but at the same time, we are also looking at how can they complement that which Nampower is doing in terms of ensuring broader access. The contestable customers that Fritz is talking about are the clients such as mines and bigger industries. But can the independent power producers also contribute to providing access to those communities they don't have access at the moment?
Thanks for that question, because I think at the heart of many questions that the public will have is how can I either be involved, how can I benefit, or how can I, take part, however you want to describe it. And so the net metering is one of the many aspects that would be there, and that would be where the consumer now also becomes a producer. And we have the term that we call prosumer. And so the average household, for example, would be able to put solar on their rooftop to reduce their daytime, and I emphasize that. And if they go further and add energy storage, then they can help to the utility to meet its peak demand. Now, one of the things that has not yet been said here is that the operation of the utility is to provide electricity whenever we want it. And in this case, I put myself as part of the public. So whenever we demand it, it's available. And so it does help that the investments that are required to meet that demand are sometimes met by the consumer itself in that direct term. And so you can get that direct benefit. And so, yes, independent power producers have, in essence, from the household level to the industrial level, have helped to meet that demand and help reduce some of the imports and improve energy security.
Yeah, now, the National Power Utility, of course, has got that mandate to ensure generation of electricity, right? But we also know that resources are limited. We are talking about the emerging industries in Namibia that are going to demand more power, whether it is in terms of mining activities, whether it's about the development of the upstream industries for oil, for example, oil and gas. To what extent can we say that we will be able to position Namibia as an attractive investment destination for international companies to come and invest in our country in the power sector, David?
Well, that continues what I was saying earlier, in that there are policies in place. There are need for some additional changes to existing policy frameworks. That's one of the things that is being looked at now under the new energy bill before Parliament. These frameworks will then allow investment, additional crowding in of investment to come into the country and provide us that space and that room for us to do that. Now, one of the things that your office has done is, of course, the ministerial determinations that has clearly identified some of the energy production capacities that are required. And so this sends a signal to the international community and to the local investment community that Namibia is open for business, and this will help move it forward.
I think, Fritz, you wanted to compliment what David said, but in addition to the comment that you are going to make, can you speak specifically to some of the major projects that perhaps Nampower is looking at in terms of increasing generation capacity in the country? We have a vision by the 8th administration. We need to ramp up generation capacity to at least 900 megawatts. What are you looking at as a national utility to help government reach that goal?
Well, this is a very interesting, challenging, and exciting phase that we have entered. There is increasing focus on own generation, own capacity, and for us to be self-reliant. We have been importing for many, many years, many decades. We have strengthened our transmission capacity to an extent where at least we could still rely on those imports. But now we have got the high priority of having sufficient own generation and also to be able to support the region in the whole SADC region as far as what we can. When it comes to priorities of projects, we have at strategic level, government has got the bilateral engagement through which, but there is a project office with Nampower where the Baines project is coming, which is 860 megawatts. Of which 50% is aimed for Namibia, which is 430 megawatts. The two governments are engaged on that, and the timeline for that is 2032.
Yeah, some of these projects, we had the Epupa project that didn't quite take off. Now we are talking about Baines. What practical steps are we taking to make sure that we start to really implement this? And how has the engagements been with our neighbors to the north?
The engagements have been quite fruitful. There may have been elements of pace. There may have been elements of funding. And so on. But now at least the bilateral, there was an agreement signed last year, which paves the way for the acceleration of the Baines project. Okay. But be that as it may, we also need to look at medium term before the 2032, because 2032 is 7 years away from now. And we need the power now. There are various demands. We have got tariff pressures. We need to bring projects online which can serve the purpose for the country, but also at the same time to impact meaningfully on containment of tariffs. We know that we are cost-reflective tariff methodology that we are applying, and when you have got 824,000 square kilometers and you have to reach a lot of people, you have got long wires, light loads, you have got all sorts of technical challenges.
How can foreign investors fill the void or the gap that is there in terms of, for example, making sure that our transmission lines do reach where they need to reach? We have areas that, for example, where we need to do exploration for minerals, but they are not currently served with power. How are we going to address that situation?
The demand and the construction of infrastructure. Strategically, our methodology does not allow for a utility such as Nampower to pre-invest in anticipation of where a load is going to be. Right. The client or the application must be with us, because from a tariff and cost-reflective point of view, we're looking at the current customers must be able to carry the tariff and the infrastructure. If they are not able to carry, because we have pre-invested, we are waiting for some investment to come. But when an application is made with tangible milestones, definitely the infrastructure will be constructed.
Okay. Now, David, we are talking about access, but we are also talking about infrastructure. We have, or Namibia is one of the African countries participating in the Mission 300 million. This is the declaration that was made by African heads of state in Dar es Salaam in January this year. How does the Mission 300 million, the energy compact that Namibia is developing, going to practically contribute to the goals that we have set for rural electrification, peri-urban electrification, and also generally, again, making sure that we have electricity to power industries, because electricity is that catalyst, is that enabler. How would the energy compact contribute to that?
Yeah, well, the cute name for the energy compact is the M300,
Right.
as you are aware, and the M300 itself. One of the good things around its development is that it looks at the entire value chain from energy production. So we've already unpacked a lot of the generation issues here, and it goes all the way to the consumer, and also in terms of the investments required. Now, what will be required from us as a country is to understand where our people live. And as pointed out by Fritz, more than 800,000 square kilometers of country is not an easy task, bearing in mind our low population numbers in comparison to the economic scale of what is required. And so the M300 is therefore allowing us to start to take a step back while looking forward at the same time to examine where do our people live, what kind of services are required, and also from a technical perspective, which is what Fritz was talking about, to understand what technically would be required to provide that service delivery to those individuals and communities and businesses and so forth. And so with that, here is an opportunity that Namibia has to reflect on that and plan strategically. Now, one of the concerns I suppose the public has is when the public views an issue, it views it from their individual perspective, whereas for us as planners and advisors and so on, we have to look at it more holistic. What do we do, and where does the funding come from for that? So the M300, I think, is that opportunity that we've now taken with both hands, and we'll be moving forward with to try and meet that concept.
Yeah.
And as you know well, that we're talking in the first phase of some 200,000 connections that are required, which is not a small feat.
And then 400,000 by 2040.
And 400,000 in total by 2040. So it is a large jump. Another point, if I may, that I think is important for us to discuss openly is the fact that this will not come cheaply.
Correct.
And of course, from even recent discussions you've had with the public, we're talking at least $1 billion Namibian per annum going between now and 2030. And that's just going to take us to the first step. And then when we look at some of the generation issues, we're then talking again in the billions of dollars for this sort of capital infrastructure. But at the same time, we have an Achilles heel of affordability that we also
by the end user.
By the end user that we also have to be looking at. And so what I think the opportunity here for us exists is to try and find a balance between increasing productivity, improving wealth creation, because that will be one of the ways of coming out of the affordability problem and doing that forward.
Yeah, Fritz spoke about cost reflectivity, and I suppose that ties into that question of affordability by the end user. Fritz, how are you as a national utility looking at these aspects of making sure that, because even if we put in the infrastructure, there must be that element of affordability. And from your perspective as the National Power Utility, of course, working together with the Electricity Control Board, the regulator, what is the thinking around ensuring that Namibians actually are able to afford the electricity that we generate?
Yeah, so this is a very intricate question, but very exciting and for us as business and technical people, it's a challenge that we should overcome. But also from a policy and political, socio-economic perspective, this is an entire ecosystem.
Right.
This is an entire ecosystem. We can provide as much infrastructure as what we want to. What we need to also add on to is to ensure that the fertile environment within which people can have increasing employment, increasing income, disposable income, etc., and so on, that part of the ecosystem is also in place. Because we put the infrastructure, we complete the infrastructure, but if the people are still not having employment, they will not have the funds to be able to buy the electricity. So we need to have that end of the spectrum also completed in the ecosystem to say, what are we going to do to make sure that there is industrialization, there is value addition, and that is where the 8th administration is also coming in to say that we need to do that value addition.
Exactly.
To say we need to do, we must industrialize. When we were crafting Vision 2030, 2030 is 5 years away, we said we want to be industrialized by 2030.
Correct.
Now, that part of the value chain and the ecosystem is getting more and more pressure.
And I think that's why it's also exciting for us as a ministry, actually. We now have the mandate to deal with issues of industrial development as the Ministry of Industries, Mines and Energy. It all comes together. Of course, the question of cost reflectivity and the cost of electricity is important. We do have those mechanisms such as the support provided to the National Energy Fund to cushion the cost of power, whether it is electricity or fuel. But again, it is, as you say, it's quite a complex matter. But what can you point out, Fritz, as some of the more successful milestones that Namibia has made in the electricity sector, looking at what Nampower has been doing, looking at the modified single mine model, looking at the introduction of the regional electricity distributors and how they are shaping the development of the industry overall?
Yeah. As Namibia, we must be very proud of maintaining a stable electricity supply system infrastructure. Yes, we need to be proud, but we must also be humble in the sense that we have got a regional infrastructure in terms of SADC, and we are also having interrelations with our regional co-players. And as much as what we are proud of what we have achieved, we also rely on our neighbors to be able to maintain the stability that we have with our electricity. We have ensured that our plants are running as efficiently as they should, reliably as they should, to be able to make sure that power from our plants are coming through for us to supply. We have also ensured that our transmission lines are available to ensure that power can flow in or out whenever we have got excess or whenever we are short. We should be proud of that. We have got various players who come to visit and sometimes for benchmarking and so on, and they feel that we are doing very well in some areas. What we are short of is the adequacy of our generation capacity.
Yeah, indeed. So adequacy of generation capacity, the national utility is working on some of these projects.
Yes.
And I think it's something, as you said, it's something that we can be proud of. Our transmission and distribution system has been stable, and that is an achievement in its own. But again, this must be backed up we are talking about local content, we are talking about local participation. Now, David, as an expert in the field, there are young people out there. They want to become players in this industry. What would you say are the opportunities for a young entrepreneur who want to venture into this system? Is the information sufficiently available to members of the general public to educate themselves about how they can participate in this industry, whether as independent power producers? And what would you say are the barriers to such kind of participation?
Thanks for that. I think at this point a door has been opened in terms of the area that you've just mentioned. Now, local participation is well understood and well needed to increase that. What is, I think, not well understood is the fact that it is a very capital-intensive industry.
Correct.
And so it is not easy for one to enter, and we refer to that as a barrier. So capital tends to be the general barrier. And unless there is a funder that has altruistic means of providing that sort of funding and concessional funding for that, then what you tend to find is that, of course, only those who have will be able to play in that space. Now, where the youth are concerned, all is not lost, because another good thing about the industry is that it is long-term.
What about entities such as the Development Bank of Namibia? Are they not able to support locals to enter the industry?
I want to come in there a bit, David.
Yes, please.
Is that before I lose my thought also, is that I think firstly we can encourage a lot of young people to enter this sector, the electricity sector. But we have to look at this fertileness of the soil and environment in terms of the ecosystem, what I said earlier. Today, anyone who wants to come to propose something innovative, whatever the solution is, when they finish from school, and young minds have got a lot of innovative ideas.
Very fertile.
They say, and when they come, you come to any organization to make a proposal. It is seen as an unsolicited proposal.
Yeah.
Then you are stuck.
Right.
Then even if you have innovated something new, now you have to go onto the PPP route. When you go to the PPP route, now again you have to compete with any other person who has not had that idea.
Correct.
And now to start to compete.
So how do you get out of that cycle?
We need to change some legislation to create a conducive environment for innovation to flourish and to make sure that access to capital is becoming readily available for innovation, because innovation cannot flourish without access to capital. And then that's where...
So we need to break the mold, basically.
Yes, we need to break the mold.
So it's in line with what the president is saying about business unusual.
Business unusual.
But that goes back to the question you raised about the Development Bank of Namibia.
Right.
So what I was about to say, and thanks for that intervention, because it sets a platform nicely, is that we have to also be innovative in the methodology and approaches that we use to arrive at our goals.
Right.
So traditional banking asks for you to have collateral and all these, and that's why I emphasize the point of it being capital intensive. So if that was to be removed, in the case, for example, like when you want to buy a house, if you have to find a 20% deposit, you won't be able to buy the house, but there are 100% loans. So if a similar approach could be taken towards some of these capital development, where the risk, and I do know that the term is lender's risk, it would be high in this scenario. But I would counter that by saying that the infrastructure is going nowhere when it is built, and the infrastructure already has a clear market on the other end. And it leads me to think of things like the mini grids and some of the solar home system rollouts and all these other things that can take place. And so the youth could get that space if the policy and of course the actors such as DBN and others start to look in that direction to give them that space for them to grow in. And as I said, I see it as an industry where it is more what would be termed as project financing, where it has its own security. So it's not the same as making bread. And no offense to those who make bread.
Yeah, you mentioned the mini grids. That is, of course, you spoke about the vastness of the country, both of you, and the mini grids would possibly serve a purpose of providing access. I think, would that be part of the innovation, Fritz, that you are referring to?
Yes, mini grids are an element that can play a role. Of course, the tendency of the end user is that once I've got the mini grid, the demand all of a sudden grows because you just see electricity. And then the system becomes too small that was initially intended. And that's where also the end user information education of what the limitations are of a system like that are important. Of course, in addition to that, what I wanted to add on is that with the current target that we have for electrification, we have to electrify on average 222, 200 to 300 households or localities every single day over the next 5 years.
That's ambitious.
To be able to reach our target. Our the suppliers, the material supply chain must come on board to ensure that there is enough capacity, that the lead and the lag times of material supply is available.
We have about 5 minutes to go.
Yes.
Now, we don't produce the solar panels and the wires and the breakers, etc., and the transformers. We don't manufacture them in Namibia. To what extent can we identify that as a niche for local entrepreneurs to participate in?
It's a definite opportunity. Definitely.
It is, if I may. And this goes back to also some of the realities around the goal. Because if you have a manufacturer that is producing a specific item, and funny, we were talking about the iPhone, that's one of the things that they said. If you have that manufacturer, you cannot be the only market for that manufacturer. Because if anything goes wrong with that market, that specific market, then you're left with no market in which to operate. And I think that is one of the things that is restricting Namibian production of many of the things that we use because of the size of our market. And so very quickly, I would just say that I think at the moment what we can do is understand and allow others to take the technological risk, and that we be more the recipients of the technology on the other end and understand it. And I think that would
Fritz, your final thoughts about the industry generally and where we are and where you think we are going as a country regarding the supply of electricity.
Well, just before that, let me just quickly latch on to David's point to say that we need to think global, act local, but serve the global market so that we do not only produce for us locally. Then the market is too small. That's just on that part. But basically, going forward for the industry, we have a great opportunity lying ahead for us as Namibia. We have got the support of government in terms of localization of generation capacity. We have got the electrification targets that are coming through. There is going to be a huge demand. There is lots of positivity. The banks are coming on board in terms of providing access for the IPPs and so on for capital and funding, foreign direct investment. There are players from outside that are interested. And now we just need to create a more conducive environment in terms of the legislation for innovative, unsolicited proposals that make business sense, that businesses can absorb for the reality to to happen.
No, thank you very much, gentlemen. I thank you very much for this conversation. We should be having more of this. The idea is really to ensure that our people get to understand how the industry is operating, what the vision is for the country. I think we are at exciting times in terms of the development trajectory of our country. The country is open for business. We are encouraging more Namibians to educate themselves about the opportunities that are out there, in particularly in this industry. But again, the vision is clear. Government has made it categorically clear what we need to do in terms of expanding access. The programs are there to be implemented. The ministry is going to do what is necessary to ensure that the targets for electrifying not less than 400,000 households by the year 2040 are achieved. We have already, as a ministry, for example, signed the service level agreements with many of the regional electricity distributors in the country. The implementation is going to start immediately, and we are actually very, very excited to be at this stage where we are taking tangible and practical steps to make sure that our people have access to electricity, that our industries can operate, that our economy can grow, that we can improve the livelihoods of our people. I thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And Nampower stands ready to support the ministry.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.